Welcome to Reading Wisdom by the author James Lynch and his ever dutiful note taker, Poeartistry. Welcome again, Perceptive Readers, to Reading Wisdom. Yes, this is the human author, James Lynch. My comment that I want to make before pointing out a book to you that for the simple statements that I've made over the years, it actually addresses my sentiments on a matter. What is that? Well, I talked about the different genres, you see, of books, from the nonfiction to the fiction and everything that surrounds it. Because when you're talking nonfiction, you're saying, hey, this is a book of facts. This book has many applications to it, or how to do's, or what have you, even about history, okay? But then when you get into fiction, it's like the skies are the limits as far as how many whoppers you want to say or tell about to make your point. And so it's stories, it's illustrations, it's how you're feeling, not necessarily objective, but actually subjective. So you can even tell a story about a situation, even a fable, for what? To tickle the funny bone, to make people happy, to make somebody's day. You see, and for the most part, a lot of persons can read fiction and nonfiction, and you know that they are still reliable people in society. People who, hey, when it comes time to getting a job done in this way, when it comes time to organizing whatever it is, this or that, they know how to keep it in its proper place. They know how to keep stories in their proper place. You see what I'm saying? So, with that thought in mind, I want to read to you a couple of thoughts that came from the book, and it's on the. I want to point it out. It's on the Gutenberg ebook, projects, and the copyrights, as I mentioned, basically boiled down to, from the licenses and the reading and things of that nature, is that they want you to read these books, and you can even read them online, and it's all for free. So I always like to mention Gutenberg.org. The book that I'm pointing out today is actually called, listen to this, I guess it isn't pun intended, but it's called Points of View. It's called Points of View. And it actually was copyright back in 1891 by Agnes Repaller. Okay? And so within the first 2 pages of this book, it makes a point that, I've shared with you. But it's nice to know that, if you want to talk about great minds think alike, well, this type of thinking was way back in the 1800s. Like I said, 1891 is when this book was actually copyrighted. And notice what some of the chapters are. I can just go ahead and read to you all the chapters. It's a book of 200 and some pages, okay? And notice some of the chapters. It's a plea for humor, English love songs, books that have hindered me, literary shibboleths, Fiction in the Pulpit, Pleasure, a Heresy, Esoteric Economy, Scanbag, and then English Railway Fiction. Now, aren't those some interesting chapters to actually read? Well, I'm going to just read the first couple of pages because I told you in the first couple of pages, it actually does have a point that I made when I talk about the different facets of our personality and life and how we enjoy life and what we talk about even at certain times and what we may not talk about at other times or what have you. So let me go ahead and start with a plea for humor, and these are just the first couple of pages. More than a half a dozen years have passed since Mr. Andrew Lang, startled for once out of his customary lightheartedness, asked himself and his readers and the ghost of Charles Dickens, all three powerless to answer, whether the dismissal seriousness of the present day, whether the dismal seriousness of the present day was going to last forever, or whether, when the great wave of earnestness had rippled over our heads, we would pluck our up heart to be merry and, if needs be, foolish once again. Not that mirth and folly are in any degree synonymous as of old for the merry fool, too scarce, alas, even the time when Jack of Dover hunted for him in the highways has since then grown to be rarer than a phoenix. He has carried his cap and bells and jest and laughter elsewhere, and has left us to the mercies of the serious fool, who is by no means so seductive a companion. If the corkscrew are in possession of the land, and if they are tenants exceedingly hard to evict, it is because of the connivance and encouragement they received from those to whom we innocently turn for help, from the poets and novelists and men of letters, whose plain duty it is to brighten and make glad our days. I'm going to stop right there, Perceptive Readers, because you can see what he was basically describing in the first couple of pages, the atmosphere of his day, of almost like a dreariness, so to speak. And in a sense, see, I'm putting it in my words, he was saying, basically, would happy days return again? And so then he was making his point in this first chapter about, well, how do we normally receive happiness? Where do we go? What do we read, so to speak, to make us feel this way or that way? And he was even making a reference that, even the food then became too serious in this case in these areas where really the food should be, what job was to still make us happy. Okay, but that's just my thought. But my point is, remember, the book is called Points of View, and you can actually read it free. And you may find it interesting that this book was reprinted from the Catholic World, you see, by the permissions of the publishers. Have a very wonderful day. Take care.
Worlds, baby!